Appreciate those that are here. First up, is there any bill introductions from the committee? Seeing none from the committee, are there any bill introductions from the audience? Seeing none. First item on the agenda is an update on the Ike program from Secretary Lorenz. Welcome back to the committee.
Thank you. It is good to be here. It's good to see everyone. And good luck with all the technology. It's a thing, I know. All right. Well, thank you for the opportunity to speak today. I've been fortunate to work with many of you on the committee, both in the room and online, and those that I haven't been had the chance to work with, I look forward to getting to know you and working with you this session. I often talk about transportation, and I like to remind people, certainly the pieces and the component parts of our transportation system are absolutely important, but transportation is more than just roads and bridges. It's about what it does for Kansans. That's why it's really important. It's about more than just roads and bridges. It's about transit and health care. So last year, more than 230,000 trips were provided for medical purposes, and in rural areas, it's particularly important. 9% of all rural transit visits are for medical purposes. And it was a tough year for our transit providers. 73 providers had to either provide reduced service or some had to actually close service for a while, which impacted more than 700 Kansans. They are reopening now, and I'm glad to report good progress on that front. It's not just about health care, it's also about economic development and vitality. Senator Bowers, I'd like to call out in your area, Salina, but not just Salina, that whole region, Belleville, Concordia, Minneapolis, and Salina have a connected network and more than 80 connections in their transit service that go directly to shopping as well as medical and other sorts of opportunities. Transportation is also about education, and I will tell you, I don't think there's any group of folks like parents that are darn glad to see the school bus show up so kids can get back to school. We also not just have to have school buses, but we need to make sure kids can bike and walk safely to school. And we certainly learned this year how important distance or remote learning is. And remote learning is dependent on good access to the internet. And that's also part of what transportation is about delivering technology to Kansans. To really sort of flip the script as we think about economic development, because absolutely we need to be able to get people to jobs, but through technology, jobs can come to people now, right? So you can work from home, you can live in Hayes and work in Denver or any sort of combination. So we absolutely know the internet is super important. And it's under the Ike program now. I'm glad to say we have two ways to get internet more affordably available to Kansans. One is through the Preservation Plus program. So when we're out doing preservation work, we can open a trench cost effectively and partner with the private sector so they can put fiber in. There's also another small program in which we have funds available for sort of that last mile service, and we co-administer that with the Department of Commerce. And this is what we more typically think of is transportation and the economy, because we are located, and I now realize, okay, but you guys have hard copies, right? Even though you can't see okay. So we're on slide 6 now. We are in the center of the country. It's a natural advantage for us. You may not realize, but we are within 2 days' drive of 85% of the American population. So we want to use that to our advantage. Beyond that, because we're a net export state for agriculture products, to the extent we can drive down the cost of transportation, it makes us much more competitive with other states and with other countries, so we can get our products across the world at a lower price, which makes us, again, more competitive and more profitable. But at the end of the day, it's really about the people of Kansas and our children and making this a place that we all want to live, our forever home. So when we make investments, when we're spending taxpayer dollars, we need to make sure that these are investments that will last, for the most part, a lifetime. So we have to be very intentional about the investments that we're making. So now, on slide 8, I've talked a little bit about why transportation is important. Now I'd like to share with you how we deliver transportation. So on slide 9, our KDOT team. We have about 2,100 employees. That's about 600 less than a decade ago. That's right. And it's largely been in the districts, out in the field where we've lost employees. About 65% of staff reductions have occurred out there. Now, I have talked and will continue to talk about the importance of our folks out in the districts. We have about 710 equipment operators. We had an independent study done that would suggest we need about 900 routine maintenance kinds of workers and about 1,000 for snow and ice. Well, there are two things at play. One, certainly pay is an issue. We were able to hire 80 people from June to October, but we lost 66 people. But I'm here to tell you that's better than it was 2 years ago. 2 years ago, we had 100% turnover. So now we're able to keep some folks. We're going to continue to recruit. And the way that we manage our staff is super important when you don't have enough people, and you do it by 2 ways. One is you go out. We had a pilot program in Kansas City, for example, where we contracted with the private sector, with a construction company to come out and help us do pothole patching and trash pickup and those sorts of things, because the work has to get done. If we can't do it, we'll go find a way to do it. And the other is out in the districts, we shift crews to follow the snow and ice. So, and we have done that for years, and we continue to do that. The concern, particularly this year, for example, is we had one entire sub-area office that was wiped out on quarantine. So, well, you got the domino, right? You can just move people to follow the storm, but if one of those dominoes falls out of the line, that can become a real problem. So all fingers are crossed that we have an easy winter. We've got lots of contingency plans, but if we lose an entire sub-area, we may have some trouble. And I always want to come to you all and let you know the good news and the things that I'm worried about. And so that's on my radar that we need to keep an eye on. Are we okay? Doing okay. All right. Now, in terms of our system, our highway system, it's the 4th largest in the nation. We have about 10,000 miles of state highways, but 142,000 public road miles. About 25,000 bridges, of those 5,000 are state system. An important number to put in your head, more than $600 million worth of freight is transported daily. So we're carrying a lot of produce, a lot of product on our state highways. They need to be in good shape so that we can keep moving those cost effectively. We have more than 2 million drivers and more than 2.4 million vehicles. Our system isn't used proportionately, and by that I mean the state has about 7% of the road miles, but 52% of the traffic. The reverse happens on the county road system, where the counties have about 80% of the roads and about 15% of the traffic. So that's something to bear in mind when you think about investments and how we allocate funds. Now, in terms of our modal program, so it's not just highways, we spend about $11 million per year on transit, about 5 on aviation, 10 on rail, and 2 on bike and pedestrians. In terms of how we're funded, we have a mix of funds you can see here in the gray boxes. Those funds are what I would call protected sources. They are exclusive to transportation purposes. We also receive funds from the sales tax. Those flow into the state highway fund, and as you know, there have been a history of transfers back out for other purposes. I'd like to point out the motor fuels tax portion, which is constitutionally protected. So remember how I talked about the county system as well and the city system as well as the state? By law, motor fuels tax comes into KDOT. We keep 2/3. 1/3 goes back to cities and counties. That's through the Special City County Highway Fund. Okay, this is a view of all of our sources, about $1.75 billion per year. Of that, about 32% is sales tax, 24% is motor fuels tax, and the feds contribute about 25%. I should point out now, as you know, through COVID, people traveled less, so we've seen about $37.5 million decline in the motor fuels tax. Beyond that, when you think about then where does the money go? We talked about where the money comes from. The money goes, about 50% goes into construction, about 12% to debt, and about 3% to administration, but that's a flow there you can see of how the funds are expended. Snow and ice removal, which I just talked about, knock on wood, we're currently 1 million less than we were at this time last year. And let's hope that continues. We've spent to date, or in this year, 5.7 million. So we hope that continues. That does not include the New Year's storm, and that was an expensive event because it was over New Year's and a holiday. But we're hopeful that things continue to trend well on snow and ice this year. This has been an interesting phenomenon. Traffic usually is a big influence of fatality rate. Usually fatalities track with traffic. In this case, we saw traffic this year's down about 10%, but the fatality rate is up about 14%. And Senator Peterson, you'll be familiar with this from the KTA board as well. We're seeing people drive incredibly fast. Many fatalities at 100 miles per hour or more. So I think people see wide open roads and they just go really fast. So that's a concern, and that is documented across the nation. We're not the only ones. I also suspect, I don't have the data that proves this, but I think we also see a lot of distracted driving. People have a lot of things on their mind. So it's a concern, the fatality rate. Senator Peterson, you asked me earlier this year. Yes, we still have the high-risk rural roads program, and we invest about $4.5 million per year in that. All right. So our mission, vision, and values, the things that we think about when we are doing our work at KDOT. Back in 2002, we established a vision, which was to say, we're the best at everything. And it's kind of like, investment. If you say everything's a priority, then sometimes you wonder, like, really, what is a priority? So we've gone back and worked to say our vision is a modern, efficient system for all users, businesses, and partners. So that's what we want to provide, is an efficient, modern system. And we want to do that so that it's good for Kansans today and in the future. And the values, the things that we think about when we do our work, how we're going to do our work, how we're going to work with others, safety and innovation, customer service, knowing that money matters, that we're going to work with teamwork internally and externally, we are going to be transparent and accountable. So those are the things that are going to guide our work. And I think it's important to go back to what I said earlier. Yeah, it's about roads and bridges and so much more. It's about how do we help people, Kansans, solve problems. We can be part of that solution, and we want to be. Now, in terms of performance measures, we do a pretty darn good job, I think, of tracking the things like bridge condition and road condition. We've got all kinds of data there. We are going to spend a little time thinking about how our customers use the system and how they perceive their experience. So again, I've enjoyed working with the KTA as well, and there's a lot of focus there on customer experience. And we need to know if our customers, our taxpayers, are happy with our system and if the experience meets their expectations. So we will be looking at measures like annual hour of delay per commuter or for trucks, numbers of jobs within 30 minutes of transit and auto commutes, dedicated law enforcement hours for better enforcement and safety. And as we understand better how we're performing, we will be reporting that to this committee, to House Transportation, and it will be available on our website. So with that, I want to say thank you for your support of the IKE program, which we passed just last March with 4 hours to spare before we all had to go home. So thank you all for your hard work. It's $9.9 billion over 10 years. It will strengthen our infrastructure, and it will provide many economic opportunities. It really sets the framework for us to work from for the next 10 years, and I am so appreciative to have that in place. And I will also say the thing that when I talk with folks about infrastructure, there's optimism around this program. Transportation, I'm thankful, is a bipartisan issue. There's good support across the board and in rural areas and in urban areas. It's the thing that we can come together around. And I got to tell you, one of the best days I had in 2020 was when I went with Senator Billinger to Goodland, and we unveiled the sign with Mary Eisenhower, the granddaughter of President Eisenhower. And It was fantastic, and I realized how very fitting it is that he, from Kansas, a famous and important president, our program follows his principles. And side note, I have a great presentation about some history of President Eisenhower and how it kind of connects to the principles of this program. I'm not going to go into that today, but if you ever want to do a webinar or something, Senator Peterson, I'd be glad to share it with this committee. It's really, if you're a history buff, it's pretty darn interesting stuff. But I'll keep going on the work, on your actual work. All right, so the 3 principles of the Eisenhower program. First, it's partnerships. It's by working with our partners, cities and counties and the private sector, we can deliver more. And yes, partnership means we ask folks to bring some money to the table, but it's also about pulling on the rope on the same rope in the same direction. When people have some skin in the game, we just get better prices and better schedules and better outcomes. I'm glad to report we have launched all the new programs under Ike. Every one of them is underway, and we kept the best of the old program under T-Works, and we launched new programs as well. You know, this is something we've got to remember, that a highway can look good on the top, and it can be bad to the core. And these are pictures that I showed you, for the last 2 years. I'll continue to show these. We are turning the corner. We're turning the page on preservation. It's getting better, but we have to remember what you see is not always what you get. And this isn't glamorous. This part is not the glamorous part of anybody's job, but man, it is the important part. Our highway system is worth north of $30 billion, and we have got to protect it year in and year out. Now, we are helping the Kansas economy. This shows you payments to contractors for work that they're doing. This is money that goes into the Kansas economy, and it ripples through the economy 4 times over. Construction lettings, you'll see here. So the first view is how much we've paid out in a single year. The lettings are how much we are letting in terms of contracts, and these typically pay out 2 to 3 years in terms of time. So you can see here how much we're investing in preservation, modernization, and in expansion projects. I should point out here, under Ike, 1 phase of every delayed T-Works project must be let before we can start new Ike work. So do not worry. We are fully committed to wrapping up those T-Works projects, but we've got to get development work started on Ike. We've got to have projects in the pipeline. Second principle, more options. We need to have better transit options, better aviation options, but options just aren't about the modes. It's also about working with businesses, working with communities. We had a good example of a project in Southeast Kansas last year where we worked really hard on a detour, and we were able to shave 1 year off the construction season, which will help that community and those businesses along the detour. So I talk to staff a lot about don't start with no. When you're asked a question, don't say no. Start with, well, let me think about it. Let's see if there's another way to look at this problem. Doesn't mean we say yes to everything, but let's not start with no. Cost share. It's a new program under Ike, and this is my favorite program of all. We started it in 92 working days. What we do is we look at communities to bring a little money to the table. These are projects that are available on the state system, on the local system. You guys, I think, will appreciate the fact that in the last 2 rounds, the state invested $65 million, and locals brought $42 million to the table. We've got projects, for example, Junction City, where we improved an intersection going to the Geary County Hospital. It's not just that pavement. We also improved the sidewalks and made ADA ramps so that people can actually get directly into the hospital. In North Junction, the North Junction project in Wichita, over 100,000 vehicles per day. We continue to chip away at that project. We can't afford to do it all at once, but we just keep going after it. People may get tired of the orange cones, but we are going to get that project done. We keep at it. We are a leader. We are the air capital of the world. We need to protect our position as the air capital of the world. Last year, I was pleased with the work that we secured under the FAA in partnership with them for drones or unmanned aircraft. We have 3 options or 3 programs there. We are doing remote inspection of infrastructure. We're doing beyond line of sight, so we don't actually human eyes until we got this opportunity. You could drive a drone, you didn't have to see the drone, but you had to have somebody in the field who could literally see the drone. Because we have wide open spaces, we were able to partner with K-State, and first in the nation to do beyond line of sight. The drone had to see for itself if birds were in the way or anything else. It's huge advancement for technology. We're helping the FAA figure out how to regulate the airspace with drones. It's complicated, and I'm pleased that we're right at the table with them. I also chair the Council on Aviation for AASHTO, for the National Association. When I first came into this job, I heard some concerns about our leadership in aviation. I took that seriously, and I've tried very hard to get much more involved in that. Bob Brock's doing a great job as well. And now we have just recently announced we're the first state in the nation to have a supersonic air corridor. What that means is that for the first time, commercial aviators can test their aircraft at supersonic speeds way high in the air, but I want to be clear about the liability issues. KDOT's not permitting that. That's an FAA decision, but we have the ability to cooperate with private companies so that they can test their flights. It's incredibly important for the Wichita area. We have great brains there, great innovation, and we think that could be an economic development tool because we have the airspace now that they can test supersonic flights. All right, and the third, that problem-solving piece, that not starting with no that I was talking about, we are here to work with people, and in order to do that, we have to start by listening first, figuring out what their problems are. Sometimes it's a transportation problem. Sometimes it's a problem that is only partly solved by transportation. So that's how we approach our work, and I want to tell a story. I know Pat Hubbell's around here someplace. Belle Plaine. This is a great problem-solving example. Town of about 1,500. BNSF added a track, and they were seeing up to 10 trains per hour with 2 long blasts and 1 short blast. And it was just driving the town crazy because it's so loud all the time. Football practices were being stopped. People were waking up in the middle of the night. They were working really hard to figure out how to solve that problem. It came down to $160,000 they needed for safety improvements, essentially medians, so that people couldn't get onto the tracks. If you can't get onto the tracks, then you don't have to blow your horn. Through the cost share program, they raised $100,000. We matched, well, we didn't match that, it was $60,000, so less than their $100,000. Now the medians will be installed. I think it's another, by the end of this year, I think, and they won't have to listen to those trains anymore. And that is huge for their community. And look at what Robin Marcy had to say about that. It's a shot in the arm for this community. It's the beginning of good news. People are encouraged that small town America really does have a voice in the world. So sometimes it's a big problem with the big dollars. Sometimes it's a big problem for a small community that doesn't need a lot of dollars. But this is what problem solving can look like. And I'm really happy with our team. They've been working, we have not been, but Belle Plaine has worked on that for 6 years. So we are glad that they're going to get some relief. So let's end on this note with the Kansas economic recovery. We know that transportation investments, they create good jobs and more economic opportunities. I am hopeful that we see a federal stimulus program for infrastructure, because what that really means is it's a jobs program. It's 2 things. It creates jobs now, but it creates that lasting value. There couldn't be a better picture than this picture of the Amelia Earhart Bridge in Atchison, Kansas. It was built, it was completed in 1938 as part of WPA. It was what helped us get out of the Depression last century. We can help recover from COVID if we get another stimulus bill through infrastructure investments. Last April, we had 34 projects in the pipeline that could be delivered by June 22. I'm glad to report now we have 133 that could be ready to go. Last year, we had 13 projects that could be delivered by the end of this year. We now have 50. We're working really hard to get some work on the shelf because we all know shovel-ready garners more stimulus dollars than not. So we are working hard to get some plans on the shelf. I will be bringing I'll be Senator Bowers, we just had this conversation. We will have a small cleanup bill for the Ike legislation that will allow us to move more quickly if stimulus dollars become available. I'm not exactly sure how that's going to get introduced, but we are working with our stakeholders now to make sure we have good support for all of that. It'll be a small cleanup bill, but we will need to get a few cleanup things taken care of. So with that, that's all I've got for today. I'm happy to take questions, and I really want to say one more time, thank you, each of you, for your support of the Ike program. It's the platform that we can work on from the next 10 years, so thank you so much.
Before I open it up for questions from the committee, do you want to introduce your staff that are here? Or?
Yeah, thank you. So I've got Joel is back here. Joel Skelly. If you have questions, Joel is the first best place to go. Okay, he will find the person in KDOT. We have lots of technical experts, and Joel will find the technical expert that can answer your questions. And then we have Denise stepped out, but she came over to help get some of the AV put together.
Excellent. And for those of you that are online, the presentation will be published, and those committee members that are online, you will have a paper copy in your folder. Committee questions. Senator Tyson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Secretary. I appreciate your team and you and all your efforts, especially when you stepped up. It's true, you don't say no. I called about a little issue in Richmond, Kansas, and you guys came up with an innovative way to change the signs, and it has helped that community. So thank you. I have two questions, if I may, Mr. Chairman. One is the debt. 12% is a considerable obligation for debt. Are we doing anything to pay that down to lessen the debt, especially with rates, interest rates, as low as they are right now?
So a couple of things I should point out. One, under T-Works, and it continues in perpetuity currently, we are allowed by law to expend up to 18% of our revenue on debt. So we're actually, and this calculation is actually based on gross, not net. So it's before you take out the transfers. Actually, we are in good shape compared to other states. Some states are really highly leveraged. So I would say the balance of trying to pay off debt versus trying to get money into construction to generate jobs, I think that's the balance that we try to strike.
10% is concerning to me, okay. Above anything.
Anything above 10, okay.
Yeah, I mean, think about your household if you were paying that much debt. So the other thing is the Sonic. There's a reason those went away. Who's going to be liable when the windows start breaking out again? I understand that it's innovation and can be helpful for the economy, but there was also fallout, and there's a reason that's
a really good question. So currently, it's an opportunity for the FAA. So a company could petition the FAA, and I will have to get back to you on exactly how the liability works. It would not be the state of Kansas liability. It would be, we need to check that. I assume it would be the manufacturer, the person who's testing.
Okay, I can understand the logistics on that are going to be an issue, especially it's fairly populated, some of
those areas.
Some of those areas are, yes.
Yeah. Happy to get back to you on that. It's, the air flight is, the corridor itself is actually way high in the air.
Yes, so. And I'd be remiss if I did not mention 69, 169, 68, and we need those highways as, we drive the state, and there's some excellent highways throughout Kansas. But if you drive 169 all the way from Kansas City to Oklahoma border, the further south you get, the worse that highway is, and the more dangerous it is. And 68, especially since the intermodal went in.
Yes, I need to check what's in the pipeline for you. Okay, I don't want to say anything wrong. So let me check the pipeline. I feel like some work's in progress, but I should check.
And thank you again for your work and your team. And thank you for your indulgence, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Senator Dietrich.
Thank you. Thank you so much for being here today. I don't think we've ever met. I'm new to the Senate, but not new to the legislature. So nice seeing you. I have just a really quick question. What are you most concerned about? What keeps you up at night as Secretary of Transportation? Is it the staffing? Is it the budget? Is it us? You know, what worries you?
I appreciate that. the thing that really keeps me up at night is the staffing part, and it's, this year in particular, I pray that we don't have a really bad snow and ice event, and that we have a sub-area out at the same time. And when I say out, when I mean all equipment operators are out at the same time. We're like we kind of hold it all together, but if we lose a whole sub-area, we're not going to be able to clean off the highways. Now, I'd also tell you, that is not the end of the world. We would just have to tell people, this stretch of highway is not available for use. That is not what we want to do, and that's not what's best for our citizens. But that's just that's a trade-off that occurs. So it's staffing. I worry about retirements because there just aren't enough STEM. There aren't enough engineers and scientists in America. So you start with that, and then you try to recruit into state government in the middle of the country. It's just a hard dynamic to cover. Where I think we can do better is on things like internships. We actually have a small office in Lawrence, and we're trying to use that as a way to recruit young engineers. So we're trying those sorts of things, but probably staffing is the thing that concerns me long-term the most. I will just go back to say, the Ike program gives me great comfort because not only do we have the framework, but it's more flexible. We can put projects in the pipeline, we can pull them out, we can meter our work better now. So that's the tool that I think will be very helpful. Now we need to figure out how to deliver all that, and we look to the private sector. I have had the good fortune, I've been on the private sector and on the public sector. I've kind of bounced back and forth. So I think we can get good work. We can partner with the private sector and we can get good work from them. It just tends to be a little more expensive, but we still have to get the work done.
Committee, further questions? Senator Bowers.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Hi, Secretary Julie. Thanks for coming and always being accessible to us, and you're always happy. I appreciate that, too. I do want to say Joel has helped me with many projects, too. What type of grass is planted on the side of the roads, which was fairly interesting to learn, and many other things. And a common call we legislators get are rough roads or margins that need to be looked at. So I appreciate the responsiveness. So always thank you, Joel. We didn't talk about K-tags. I've watched K-tags evolve through the years where they cost money to where now they're free. And then I don't know if the public knows, but if it's under $10, you don't withdraw, you wait till you have a larger amount. And as a car dealer traveling a lot with transports, that's very helpful to us, so I appreciate that. I don't know that people understand how nice it is to speed through the highway and not stop and get a toll ticket. So once you have that in your window, it's very nice. So I think we're doing a very good job on that too, as a program well ran. But I really do appreciate your responsiveness, and we'll watch what we do with the locals, which I know they're excited about, to have the teamwork, and their voice is important to you as well, so, because they talk to us too. So thank you, Julie.
Thank you, thank you. And I will, a shout out really, KTA, it is such a good partnership now. And they're kind of tip of the spear sometimes because they're more like quasi-governmental. They're not pure, they're not totally government. So they can try some more innovative things. And then we at KDOT can learn from that. It is a really good partnership. I am really pleased with some of the things we've got going on. And so, anytime you got extra time, I'll come back and I'll tell you about the feasibility study that we're doing on US 69 and a partnership with KTA there. But anyway, I know that you're supposed to have an abbreviated session, so I will quit talking and see what else. If you've got any other questions.
Well, I have a couple of questions. Don't expect you to answer them today. There's some rumors out there that they're changing the skip rate on the lines that separate our lanes on the highways for automated and connected vehicles. We've heard that Kansas might be in line to start doing a test corridor for some of that.
So we will take a look at that striping question.
Right, I know that they're talking, we do 3-to-1, I believe, which is the national standard, but some of these vehicle manufacturers and stuff are looking at going to a shorter distance in between the lines, or either a longer line. So I know that's something you get back with me, not off the top. appreciate all the work with aviation and a lot of that. That's really a lot of small airports that I believe we're gaining on our air ambulance services across our state now. From some grants, it's just amazing what transportation, if it has wheels, it seems like transportation touches it.
That's right, exactly. And I only talked about the innovation side, but we have CAPE, the Kansas Airport Improvement Program that you're talking about. It's about $5 million a year. It's enormously popular and enormously valuable for lighting, for runway maintenance, those sorts of things, because air ambulance service, Kansans are about 30 minutes within air ambulance service, and we need that to be the case, particularly in our rural areas, so they can get to the hospital when they need to.
For our rural areas, the innovation was you didn't just put it in pavement and infrastructure. If there was a solution to bring air ambulance service first, you even offered grants for the GPS mapping to make more airports all weather without having to even dig a hole in the ground. And that, I'm sure our citizens thank you. Committee, are there any further questions? I have one more then. You mentioned we're preparing for stimulus package. We have the priorities for T-Works projects first. Would that be addressed in your legislation if we would get the stimulus money?
No, so T-Works projects, we are on schedule to, it's on our website. What we will be coming to you with is 3 issues. The first one is around alternative delivery and lowering the threshold instead of at 50 million to drop it down, I think, to about 10, so that if we get stimulus dollars and we've got a project over here that we need to move fast on, we would be able to do that even if it does, no, it's 100 million. So that if it's like a $50 million, we could move forward on that. So one of it's around the threshold for design build. The second one is related to being able to do a project if it isn't a T-Works project, that we'd be able to move forward on stimulus. So it's all related to stimulus dollars, yeah. Now, of course, we want to try to accelerate T-Works projects wherever we can, but we've got some right-of-way acquisition problems with some of these projects, which is why there's a bit of a holdup on them. So if we've got clear right-of-way on another project, even if it's not T-Works, we'll want to be able to move on that. So it's very much portfolio balancing and trying to figure out which ones we can push that can be shovel-ready. It also really depends on what the requirements are related to stimulus. Under ARA, they had to go really fast. If we get a new stimulus bill, will it be 100 days? Will it be 3 years? We have to kind of see what the requirements are. Our commitment is to deliver T-Works first. But we're also not going to leave money on the table if we can get to another project and it has to go faster. So we're going to have to balance all that.
That was my question. Thank you very much. Appreciate you being here today.
Mr. Chairman.
Don't hesitate to reach out to them when you have questions. Senator Hawk, appreciate you joining us. I know you're enjoying some of the nice, smooth highways out there.
It is.
Excellent.
It just doesn't seem right to have a meeting without Senator Hawk asking a question, but he knows where to find me.
Can I ask one quick question?
Absolutely.
I like the pipeline process, and I just wondered what the feedback has now been from contractors and local units of government.
There may be somebody out there that doesn't like it, but they haven't mentioned it to me. Everyone appreciates this idea of being able to have another opportunity, that you just don't have a one shot every 10 years. Contractors are thrilled with seeing how quickly we are able to get projects ready to go. They certainly want to see investments stay high in construction so they can keep their folks working. You know, last 10 years we lost some contractors, but we're seeing them start to replenish their crews. So I haven't heard anything negative about the pipeline.
I certainly
there may be
appreciate
somebody
what
out
you
there.
have been doing. I haven't heard anything, and I don't suspect we will, but I just wanted to double check, because I think that's one of the key, many parts of our new Ike plan, but I think that's one of the more innovative things that has given us the flexibility, and I thank you for that.
Thank you.
Thank you for the question, Tesla Tom, and I'm sure that you were operating hands-free. With that, committee, we are adjourned.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Committee members that are